How are you? Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. Nice to see you too. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while. I had a chance to check out your background on LinkedIn. You have a more straightforward path than some, kind of like mine,
hmm
within the science industry. But I know there's been some pivots for you,
hmm
especially it looks like you started your own consulting company back in February of 2013. So I'm sure there's got to be a something there that happened. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know you as a person and your story. And really happy to talk to a fellow Canadian as well, right? Did I get that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
You're
Montrealer.
Montrealer. Okay, because I only saw that you did your studies, at least your university studies at U of T.
Right.
Did you do your undergrad there?
I did my undergrad and graduate work. Shout out to Professor Desser at the University of Toronto in the parasitology and zoology department.
Oh, wow. Okay. That was my next question. What were you studying specifically?
So my undergrad was in microbiology, and my graduate work was on a virus in frog red blood cells. It was pretty early on in the study of this virus. Professor Desser actually had discovered this virus by doing a survey of frog blood. And the Algonquin Park actually has a wildlife research station that's supported by, I don't know, five or six universities in Ontario, of which the University of Toronto is one. And so every summer we would
Hmm.
go up to the wildlife research station, catch our frogs. And in my case, I was studying the virus, which was one of the largest known viruses at the time. It was so large that it was just at the limit of detection of the light microscope.
Wow. Do you know if at all is it still prevalent now, that virus, or
I don't
have they
know.
figured?
I've
Okay.
sort of lost touch with that
Yeah.
research. Yeah.
Is there a couple of publications with your name on it out there
There are.
in the internet? Yeah. Nice.
There
Okay.
are, I continued down that path and was very lucky to get a postdoc at the NIH in Alan Kimmel's lab and was studying phosphorylated protein that was associated with fat droplets. This protein was called perilipin, and I have a couple of publications on that. And then I decided to, and this is my first pivot. I decided to leave the academic world and join the business side of science.
Well, I was going to ask you about that because obviously you've had a lot of, VP, director marketing roles right after completing that postdoc. Companies like Amersham, GE Healthcare, Diagnostics, and I think you spent your longest stint at Gyros Protein Technologies. So, what attracted you to specifically marketing? Because it seems like that's where you spent the bulk of your career so far. Explain that pivot.
Yeah, it was a combination of marketing and product management, what today we often call product marketing. And I felt that it was a good way to still use my scientific knowledge and, my continuing curiosity in science and reading publications and bringing that more to the commercial world and being able to translate customer needs into products, being able to understand customer pain points and gains and translate that into marketing messaging.
Yeah, and I'm sure the your lab experience going through those postdocs really helped not with only that role, but also just in general conversations with end users and customers, understanding what they're sensitive to, wanting to see in terms of marketing material, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think it comes from my comfort of being in the lab and being
Yep.
able, at least at that time, you were able to walk into a lab and look around and talk to researchers sort of in their native element, if you will. And not only learn from talking with them and getting their opinions of things, but also learn from just looking around. What else is in the lab? How else are they set up from a workflow perspective? Because that also helps to inform the products as well as marketing.
Now, how has marketing changed for
Mhm.
you, in your opinion, from, back when you started Amersham to now?
Yeah. The age-old story, I was just at the cusp of the digital age in marketing. So
Yeah.
when I started, phone calls were still a big part of my marketing toolbox. Conferences were a huge part, in person, obviously, a huge part. Users' meetings, a huge part of my marketing toolbox. And obviously, over time, email crept into that, websites crept into that, and all the educational materials in websites. SEO became a bigger part, webinars became a bigger part, especially around, I want to say around 2010, 2011. I really felt that webinars were an important education tool and an important tool in the buyer's journey part of marketing.
And now with AI, who knows, that's going to take on a whole different direction. People say, yeah, technology is supposed to make your life easier. In a sense, it does. And in another sense, it almost makes it busier as well. You get kind of lost in the data. Do you think there's anything right now, the general sort of marketing practices that are like not useful, but people seem to be still sticking on to? Like, for example, email marketing, is that still a thing? Is that still useful? Maybe that was good like back in the early 2000s, but now it's not really the best bang for your buck. Like those type of examples. Do you have any of those?
So, the way I like to think about it is not as individual tools, but as the aggregation of these tools and the aggregation of channels in how to reach people. There are all kinds of studies that say you need to hear things and see things somewhere between 3 and 7 times before you're going to take action or before you've started to process what it means for you. And so I still see email marketing as part of that comprehensive, multi touch point approach. I definitely see LinkedIn as a big part of that approach. I see conferences, webinars, and so on as this sort of multi touch approach to engaging with people.
Yeah. And how do you see AI changing the game going forward with marketing, specifically in our industry?
I'm a huge fan from an efficiency perspective. It doesn't mean that I'm turning off my brain. It doesn't mean that I'm subservient to AI to doing my job. I see it as a partner in brainstorming. At midnight, Jasmine has a crazy idea. Okay, let's see what Madame Shah, as I call her, has to say about a particular topic. I often find it challenges my thinking to think outside the box. So I'm a huge fan from a marketing perspective. I'm a huge fan for the potential it's shown in the diagnostics industry, talking about another pivot in my path. For a couple of years, I had the privilege of working for a molecular diagnostics company called Biodesics. And in 2013, 2014, Biodesics had one of the first blood-based tests based on machine learning. And
Wow.
this the test was based on for non-small cell lung cancer. And it was based on mass spectrometry data and looking at the trends of mass spectrometry data of the individual patient compared to the control group. So I'm a huge fan, and I think that AI is going to make a lot more inroads in diagnostics. It's made great inroads in protein sciences in general, with, for example, the AlphaFold 3 model and the Nobel Prize in Chemistry based on that. So I think there are a lot of good things that are going to come out of using AI.
It's accelerating at such a fast pace. I think I read somewhere that if we can all hang on to live for another 10 years and let AI figure it out, we're going to be living till, way beyond 100. You just got to hang in there, Jasmine.
Right.
Just don't
I'm not
die
that old,
in
so
10
I think I
years.
can do it for another 10 years.
I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it by that. I'm including myself in that boat as well. I always wrestle with this. Like, I think with AI now, authenticity is such a big thing. Like, people are going to be looking for more authentic, human-made content, material. So, in terms of a marketing aspect, like reaching out to end users, cold reach outs or whatnot, I have a sense that people are still turned off if they know it's a robot
Oh, yeah.
interacting with them, or either trying to sell them something or just even like asking questions, maybe more the deeper questions. That's why I think the human touch is still important now. But is it going to come a time where that's going to be totally fine? Like that's going to be just the norm and said, yeah, I'm talking hardcore science and trying to figure out technical conversations to figure out exactly what I need, what kit I need, or what instrument I need with a robot, and I'm totally cool with that later on. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that as social people, social animals, if you will, we are always going to want to have human interaction. Will there be times when, I just want to plug something into my favorite app or into a website and get the answer? Of course, those will be their times. But I don't think that there will be an easy replacement for that human interaction. And just as we're having a conversation today, and you may start the conversation in one way, and I may say something else that inspires you to go down another way, I think the same thing will be true in science and in marketing and in selling and so on. No
Yeah,
replacement for humans.
there is no replacement for humans. I'm not denying that. I just think that the norm, especially as kids grow up with AI, it's going to be less of a, I think, important thing for society. I'm talking like 50 years down the line versus like, for example, like a book. Now, okay, if you read a book and you know it's written by a human, I guess that means something versus a book that gives you good quality information, just as good written by a robot. There's still that, oh, it feels weird. But maybe 50 years from now, people would be totally fine with reading a book as long as it gives them the content that they want. Who
Right.
cares if it's written by a robot?
Maybe you're right. Maybe it comes down to segmentation, right? Maybe there will be a segment of society that's fine with getting their responses from a chat bot, that's fine with knowing that a book was written by a bot and is not interested in meeting the author and is not interested in going to these coffee houses and hearing an author read the book. So that may be one segment. No idea how big a segment that is. But I
Yeah.
still think that there's going to be a segment that will care about human interaction, that will care that Pat is walking through the door. I know Pat's interested in selling me something, but I'm happy to see Pat, and I would rather see Pat than a robot or a chatbot.
I'd love to believe that as well. Even if it even requires of like to come back to the book example, paying more for that book written by a human. There's a segment that will do that. Like you said, the size of the segment will still yet to be seen.
Right.
You've navigated through the corporate world, marketing. You've done very important roles, and then all of a sudden, 2013, you decide to start your own consulting companies. How did that come about?
Yeah, it was a time in my career where I'd been extremely fortunate and had a lot of great opportunities at larger companies. And I, I did some self-reflection and I was curious to know whether I was capable of not only doing marketing within the life sciences, but could I do marketing outside the life sciences? Or was that tie to my own scientific knowledge so strong that I couldn't break it and I couldn't expand into other markets? So that was the question I was trying to solve for myself.
Hmm.
And I was lucky to be able to consult for both companies within the life sciences as well as companies outside the life sciences. And what I learned was the process is the same. So whether you're talking about figuring out pricing and pricing strategy, whether you're talking about putting together campaigns for a specific goal, the process and the steps of how to think about it are the same, whether you're in life sciences or whether you're in plastics.
That's interesting. So I guess, yeah, transferable skills, right? And
Exactly, transferable skills. And also, there's a lot that we in the life sciences could learn from other industries, from the consumer side, from our consumer selves as a target audience, that I think most marketers in the life sciences are only at the tip of the iceberg right now in learning from these other industries.
I agree. I always felt that our industry was just a couple of steps behind from obviously the tech industry, but even other industries in terms of tools to use and even AI now, you know. There's a lot of my network that's working for big companies, and I'm just shocked that AI is still not widely implemented in what they do on a day-to-day basis. I wonder why.
My hypothesis is that it comes from two things. One, we have grown up with the, I think it's the myth that scientists, our target audience, only care about the facts, only care about the specifications, only see the world through that lens. And so if you're going to market to them, if you're going to be a product manager, if you're going to be selling to them, it's only the specifications. And I
Mm,
think that that is a myth. I think the other aspect that has held our industry back is the majority of people on the corporate side have come from a scientific background. And so they've perpetuated the myth.
there's a lot of technical jargon. When Apple came out with the iPod,
Mhm.
when other people started making iPods, they were focusing on the technical features and benefits. And what Apple did so well was instead of saying, "Hey, you know, this thing only this small, this size, this weight, and it has this feature," all Apple said was that um, you can have 1,000 songs in your pocket,
Right.
you know, and that right away just connected with everybody on such a simple level. Whether you're a PhD or you're a 13-year-old kid, you just understood the magic in that. What? 1,000 songs in my pocket? What? That really stuck with me. I'm trying to apply that. I think our industry could use more of that.
I completely agree. I think using analogies to our consumer, to our day-to-day lives outside of our work can only help resonate more and can only help us stand out from others in the industry in a way that really considers the job that your customer has to do, right? Their job isn't to know those specifications. They're not going to be able to publish more based on knowing the sophistication of a mass spectrometer. But they are going to be able to publish more knowing what kind of data they get out of it, knowing that connection to nature and to biology. And those sorts of analogies, I think, are going to become super important. What I'm also seeing is a little bit more of a trend of non-scientists being hired in marketing communications, which I think is absolutely a positive thing.
Absolutely. I think one thing I admire about you is you're constantly learning.
Hmm.
I see your posts on LinkedIn and you're constantly pushing these conferences, going to these conferences. And one of the questions I had is, yeah, you touched upon it a little bit, but the trend, what is the trend in the marketing space right now in our industry? So you said one of them was, you know, hiring people from out the outside. Anything else?
I'm seeing more of a trend of agencies being used. So, this realization that companies don't need to have all the resources internally and can leverage agencies that have core competencies in SEO, that have core competencies in writing content as examples, and almost leveling up. by using these agencies.
I mean, that holds especially true for startups and smaller companies, but you're saying even you see even like the bigger companies
Yep.
outsourcing. It's like a farmer outsourcing a CRO to
Yep.
do their work. Yeah, that makes sense. Most recently, Lean Focus. What's that about? Are you still doing your consulting with this, or how does that work?
Yeah, I'm consulting about 25% of the time. I have my own consulting as well as I have a consulting practice within this bigger company called Lean Focus. Lean Focus's mission is to help transform companies based on lean processes. So it's not so much about hiring more people or using more project managers. It's all about being smarter and building more efficiency in through processes, which really resonates with me as a scientist. And I've tried to bring in that sort of thinking in my marketing and product management career as well. The other aspect of what I'm doing recently is working as part of a nonprofit for an organization called SAMPS, which is Sales and Marketing Professionals in the Life Sciences. And the mission of SAMPS sort of directly ties what we've been talking about is around career development for sales and marketing professionals in our industry through education and networking. So this is another great opportunity for sales and marketing professionals to continually learn not only from the theory, but also from other professionals in the industry who have gone through many of the different pitfalls that some of our younger colleagues haven't yet gone through.
Wow, okay, you just sold me. I'm definitely, where do I
Excellent.
sign up?
It's free.
Send me the link.
Membership is
Yeah.
free. We have webinars just about monthly, and we have two annual events, one in the US, which is usually around December, and then we have one in Europe, which is coming up on April 3rd. So, yeah,
Oh,
shameless
great.
plug there. Sorry about that.
No, all good. Yeah, I mean, as you know, that's what my agency does. So I'd be remiss not to check it out. So thanks for that. And I got to ask you, where do you see this whole tariff thing with Trump going and in
Are
our
you
industry
seriously going to get
specifically?
political on me, man?
No, I mean, it's like current news. It's like on everyone's mind. I just wanted your opinion in terms of, do you know if it's going to affect our industry at all? I've spoken to people in Amersham. They have no clue yet. That's okay too.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What I do know is the politicization of science is a real thing that has only been negatively trending upwards since the pandemic. This is another thing that is near and dear to my heart, which is really being crisper at communicating science and what it means for the average person in a way that they can consume and understand and put into practice. And
Hmm.
as a scientific community, I think we've got a lot more work to be done there.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, so I'll leave it at that. I understand exactly what you're talking about. As science people, we're sensitive to these things. And, this just came up, obviously, a couple of days ago. And yeah, I'll be interested to see where this goes. One aspect is we got to focus on the science and we got to focus on the good and do whatever we can to better humanity. It is not a political thing. And that's hopefully what most people focus on.
There's no fear of facts. The science is all about the facts. Sure, do scientists get things wrong sometimes? Of course, we're human. And that's when we publish again and correct our facts or put out amendments to correct the facts. But they are facts. It has nothing to do with politics.
Well, Jasmine, I got to tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I could probably talk to you for hours on end. And I think it hits a little different speaking from a Canadian, speaking to a Canadian. The country is definitely more patriotic than I've ever seen. And we're just all banding together. It's pretty nice. That's one good thing that's come out of this is we've looked in the mirror or turned towards ourselves to say, hey, how can we work better together, whether it's inter-provinces or the business down the street, whatever. That's been a positive thing for Canadians, I find.
I love it. I am very proud to be a Canadian, and I'm especially proud of the extra spine we've grown over these last weeks.
Like Trudeau said in his speech, it's not going to be easy, but we'll get through it together.
Absolutely.
Well, there you have it. There's Jasmine. I could have spent hours talking to her about marketing. I'm always fascinated with the psychology around marketing and how do you change someone's behavior and habit with an ad, audio ad, a video ad, whatever. These days, you probably have to see it more than once, but that always has fascinated me, especially in our industry. And so happy that Jasmine found the time to get together and discuss, even for half an hour. Really appreciate that. Full disclosure, with my life science sales agency, North Star Scientific, I work with Jasmine on a regular basis, and just getting to know her in that setting, I knew she'd make a great podcast guest and had a lot of insights into many different things, especially around marketing though. So, glad we got that done. If you're interested in checking out our LinkedIn site, definitely check out North Star Scientific, and you'll see bits and clips of our podcast on there. Or if you want to listen to a full podcast and get a visual representation of it, please check us out on YouTube at North Star Scientific. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.